Hello everyone, welcome to round number 11 of Grand Prix Montreal. Rich Hagen and Jacob Van Lunen with you throughout this round number 11. Two 9-in-1 players will kick us off. It's Tyler Echevarria on the left with Temur Marvel up against the deck I guess we're going to focus on mostly in this main match. Jake, Philippe Desbiens with white-blue tempo.
Tyler gets things started with a Servant of the Conduit here, and you know, this is an interesting card in the format because I think it kind of holds a lot of decks together with its mana fixing. But oddly enough, these decks usually aren't playing a lot of 4-drops. So they're playing a lot of 3s with this 2-mana mana accelerant, which often feels a bit strange. There we see the Rogue Refiner. And I think that's one of the major reasons why Censor hasn't had more of an impact on this format, because people are playing this ramp spell on turn 2, and then they're playing 3-drops on turn 3 instead of actually tapping out for a 4-drop.
I mean, talk about tempo. This looks like a fantastic start for Tyler. Never mind whether there's going to be a Marvel in the future. This is just like, here's my nice 2-drop, here's my nice 3-drop. Here's all the colors of mana I want.
Yeah, and this is not what Philippe wants to see at all. Philippe wants to be winning on the board early and then to counter every Aetherworks Marvel he sees from there on out. And if he's losing on the board, then he's going to have a lot of trouble being able to, you know, just get ahead and be able to win the match.
So the Desbiens list here, a couple of Eldrazi Displacers, an Aethersphere Harvester, Declaration in Stone, 3 Stasis Snare, 2 Censor. There's an Eldrazi Sky Spawner.
That's a deceptively powerful card. It's a card we've seen a decent amount of it constructed in the past, and I think people often underestimate just how good Eldrazi Sky Spawner can really be.
Well, it's brought along a Scion for the ride.
Whirler Virtuoso matches up pretty nicely against Eldrazi Sky Spawner, though. I mean, and the big problem here, of course, is that Eldrazi Sky Spawner, it creates 2 bodies that both have 1 toughness, and those don't really represent cards. So Philippe's happy to trade for that Rogue Refiner there because he knows that 2-1 flyer is never going to be effectively attacking Tyler with those 8 energy in the
That's not what it's for. So Desbiens with 4 mana currently, +1 if he wants to sacrifice the Eldrazi Scion, which gets him into Archangel Avacyn range, should he feel the urge.
Yeah, and what's really good here about what Philippe is doing is that he's able to leave all of his mana untapped. So if Tyler tries to cast a big spell, something like Chandra Flamecaller or Aetherworks Marvel, Philippe can then just use a counterspell and counter that. However, if Tyler decides, well, I don't want to go for that here and just run it into a counterspell, then Philippe can still use his mana and resolve a really powerful card like Archangel Avacyn.
So Tyler thinking about whether he wants to head into the zone. He does. Now, do we get as far as the quote-unquote blockers?
And this is what's hard for Philippe because he can effectively just eat that Whirler Virtuoso if Tyler doesn't have a Harness Lightning or you know, some other interactive spell that can actually get the Avacyn off the table. But Harness Lightning is
basically
really
Harness Lightning, yeah.
But if he does so, then he's giving Tyler a window of opportunity to resolve Aetherworks Marvel if he has it in hand. And then Philippe might be facing off against Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger, and he basically stands no chance to win the game. So he's going to, you know, forego the opportunity to just eat a Whirler Virtuoso and instead play it safe and leave his mana untapped.
So Tyler gets through with Whirler Virtuoso. And Philippe does a little bit of cycling.
So one thing I like about what Philippe did there is he didn't just go for the Avacyn right away. He saw the mana untapped. He doesn't want to necessarily just run it into the Harness Lightning right away. He also knows that he doesn't have any counter magic in hand. So eventually Tyler's going to pull the trigger and try to go for something. And he needs to actually have the tools at the ready. The bluff is only strong for so long.
Yeah, people just confirming whether Philippe had 5 mana, and of course it's because of the Eldrazi Scion, as we were discussing. So, yes, he did have 5 mana. But now he has 5 land as well. So that Scion can stay put for now, if that's his desire. But right now, he's tapping 4, and can this be a Gideon? It can.
You know, normally this card just completely dominates a board, but again, we're seeing the power of Whirler Virtuoso here. And Whirler Virtuoso matches up really well against Philippe's deck. He has cards like Eldrazi Sky Swanner, he has Planeswalkers, he has Archangel Avacens that can get chump blocked. This is, you know, not necessarily the, you know, of course they'll get chump blocked once it flips, but because before the flip you don't necessarily want to be, you know.
So there we are, Gideon, ally of Zendikar, just to confirm. These days, of course, in theory, we should formally call him ally of Zendikar rather than of the Trials, because it turns out we've actually seen that in play as well this weekend.
Yeah, I was watching a bit of the stream yesterday when Paul and Marshall were commentating, and there was a Gideon emblem on the board.
Right.
And not the +1/+1 emblem. The
Indeed.
You can't lose emblem.
Yeah. So here's Tyler, has converted 9 energy into 3 Thopters, which is quite hard to say. the 3 Thopters.
Yeah, when speaking about it, we usually prefer they make 2 or 4.
Yes. Yes. And to be fair, it doesn't come up that often that you've just got 9 energy spare in a deck that, like I say, it's spare energy that you're not just hoarding for your Marvel. But this is the case. So those 3 have turned sideways and put Gideon, ally of Zendikar, down to 1 loyalty. To her op to sir, says Imbunchy. Yeah. Got there.
See, one thing that's really interesting here is, you know, we see how good Whirler Virtuoso matches up against Gideon, ally of Zendikar, and against Planeswalkers in general. But even in that situation, Gideon, ally of Zendikar is going to be producing 2/2/2 bodies and preventing a strong chunk of damage from hitting Philippe. It's basically like a better Huntmaster of the Fells here, and it, you know, is, oh no, he's animating. This is exciting.
All right, so smash. No 1/1 flyers to just randomly get in the way. But Tyler's up at 20, so probably won't mind. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
This is a great interaction that's about to happen here.
Okay, talk me through.
So Archangel Avacen, when a creature you control dies, at the end of the turn, you're going to flip the Archangel Avacen. And he has that Eldrazi Sky Spawner token, the Eldrazi Scion, so he's just going to sacrifice that for mana, pop that clue, and then his Avacen is going to flip, and it's going to clear the entire table and allows Gideon to live.
All of which I think could be summarized in the word disgusting.
Yes, absolutely disgusting. And the great thing for Philippe here is that Tyler doesn't have the Marvel right now. He doesn't have the energy to use it either. And that Chandra Flamecaller, even if it uses all of its counters to deal damage to creatures, that's still not enough to deal with Avacen the Purifier.
I'm really sad they didn't call that Avacen the Puri Flyer.
You just needed that L.
Yeah.
You just shove it in right after that F, you know?
Yeah. Perhaps we could have borrowed one from you. You could be Jacob Van Unen, and we could have just borrowed the L.
I'm willing to give it up.
Okay.
Avacen, you know, she's...
You don't mess with her. I mean, if she came knocking and said, "Jake, my friend, I need your L,"
I'd be like, no problem. I have kids, you know?
Yeah.
Kid.
I like that. Well, anyway.
Yeah. Oh, you're cutting the dog, too. I get it. That's good.
So, Tyler at 12, Philip at 18. It's going to be a long day, my friend. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana for Tyler, a couple of energy, which is not currently doing anything. And we're kind of in that weird spot with only a couple of cards left, where just maybe he's not going to have enough energy when Marvel comes knocking. However, he probably is going to have enough mana when Ulamog comes knocking. So, meanwhile, here's Archangel Avacen. More cycling from Philippe, who has basically felt like a white-blue control deck here.
Yeah, despite not ever drawing counter magic, just the representation of it has made Tyler play this game very different than he would have otherwise, and that's allowed Philippe to, you know, hedge his, you know, attacks and blocks, and as a result, he's been able to pull ahead here. And, you know, Tyler now has an opportunity to play 9th land, but that's not the 10th land.
9, not 10.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I think it was V. Moshowitz who once posted a review of Draco, which was like a 16-16 that you paid less for as you went along. And
I think it's an 8/8 flyer, and it costs 16, and it costs 2 less for each basic land type among lands you control.
Okay, maybe it was that, but there was certainly something that dealt 16 damage, and the deck was built around the idea of dealing 16.
Yeah,
and
you erratic explosion into your Draco.
There we are. That was it.
Mana cost
there we
16.
go.
Yeah,
there we go. It's the erratic explosion, and his entire summary of the deck was 16. Alas, is not 20.
Yeah, but you play Prophetic Bolt in that deck.
Oh, okay, fair. So there we are. That was game number 1. We'll think of something else to say, and we'll be back in a minute. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Rich and Jake with you here on day 2. It turns out to be of GP Montreal. Tyler Echevarria against Philippe Desbiens here, but they're shuffling away. Why don't we go to the Marvel Miramatic universe of Paul Dean and Bradley Robinson, and in a stunning turn of events, Jacob, it's 0-0.
Yeah, I mean, the first game of this Temur Marvel Mirror usually goes pretty fast. There's not much interaction for the combo, so a lot of the time people are just racing to cast an Aetherworks Marvel and try to hit an Ulamog. Once you get into games 2 and 3, the matchup gets really interactive. It's actually some of the most fun I've had playing Standard recently is this mirror match, surprisingly, in post-boarded games.
Yeah, I hear there is a lot going on post-board in this.
Now, I think Paul Dean broke the mirror, by the way. I was talking about this last night. He's playing multiple copies of Shrine of the Forsaken Gods.
Right.
And I think maybe you could even play more in your sideboard. And these post-boarded games where both players, the game lasts forever, seemingly, he gets to the point where he's able to hardcast Ulamog before his opponent.
Right.
And as a result, he's been just crushing these Temur Marvel mirrors all weekend.
It is just the race to Ulamog.
Yeah, so
which I think is a movie.
Changes one land in the deck, just puts an extra Shrine of the Forsaken Gods in there, and suddenly he's massively favored in these mirror matches, and here he is at 10-0.
And here they are still at 20-20, but marvels on both sides. Paul Dean has just the slight edge of Rogue Refiner and Ulamog versus Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, which I think puts him ahead using all my skill and judgment. Here's a glimmer of genius. 2 energy. Let's take a look at the top 2. That's a land and a spell. He's got plenty of land in hand and plenty of land in play. Is he actively trying, I mean, ignoring the fact that Ulamog's on the board, is he liking land because in the back of his mind in this matchup, there's always the plan of getting to 10 and actually casting Ulamog?
That's part of it. Another part of it is, especially if you have interaction, people who have played control decks for a long time and control mirrors know that hitting your land drops is, especially when you're playing a mirror match of sorts, is one of the ways that you win the game. A lot of the time when you're playing a controlled mirror, you'll find that the player who stops hitting land drops first is usually the player who loses the game. And even though even if that's on turn like 8 or 9, and that would be flood, and that would be terrible in a lot of matchups. In the control mirrors, just having those extra resources for when the big counterfight happens, that's really important. So even though this is game 1, I think, you know, Paul has this deck down to a science, and he's setting himself up to play game 2 properly. Doesn't want to miss land drops. Looks like he has another Ulamog in hand, and he just wants to have more resources at the ready than Bradley because he's got plenty of cards in hand already. He just needs more ways to cast them.
So here's another Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot. Paul Dean up to 5 energy and 23 life. Does seem quite likely that Paul is going to win this one.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how Bradley could come back. I imagine one more attack is going to exile the rest of his library, and there are no cards in his main deck that get an Ulamog off the table, to my knowledge. So yeah, it looks like this one is in the books, and we're going to have to move on to a game 2 for these two.
Mm-hmm.
And again, as I pointed out, Paul Dean, heavily favored in postboard and mirrors, so.
Well, I tell you what, we're going to call this one in favor of Paul Dean, which is always a risky proposition on coverage, but hey, I'm going to do it anyway. You only live once. So let's go back to game number 2 in Echevarria against Philippe Desbiens. And it is Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot for Tyler, who's already up to 4 energy, and the reason it's 4, not 3, is because of that ether hub you see on the left of screen. Desbiens passes on turn number 2 with, you know, representing possibly counter magic somewhere in there, and we see a negate brought to the front of his collection, but Tyler actually doesn't have a turn 3 play. Desbiens also doesn't have a turn 3 play, and that includes land, which is not good news. Ooh.
And now, interesting here that Tyler chose to keep Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot in the deck against a deck with counter magic.
Right.
A lot of the time when you're playing against a deck that has, especially a deck that posts board with sideboard up to, you know, 8 or more counter spells, Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot is a hard card to keep in your deck because your opponent in most stages of the game is close to 100% of the time is just going to allow you to resolve the Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot. It's essentially a mulligan.
Right. God, this is horrible, though. Tyler hasn't laid land number 4. Philip is now into his 2nd discard from 2 land, which is obviously where he started the game. Obviously just kept 2 land, 5 spells, and went, yeah, sure, this will be fine. It isn't. Here's another Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, which... yeah, still that hand. So 10 energy already. Oh, boy.
So Philippe has Bruna the Fading Light in his graveyard. I don't know if you've noticed that. It's kind of exciting. His deck can meld Giselle the Broken Blade with Bruna the Fading Light.
Mm-hmm. There's Bruna, the Fading Light. A big 5/7, Flying in Vigilance.
Nice.
See, that'd be worth seeing.
Yeah, I'd be excited about that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's no Thraben Inspector, but
to be sure.
So Tyler with just getting to what I don't think we actually have a dice for infinite energy.
Yeah.
But he's heading into that kind of functional realm. I mean, to be fair, it's only two spins of the Marvel right now.
Yeah, 2 spins of the Marvel or 4 Thopters with a Whirler Virtuoso.
Oh, well. It's like
the thing that's
barely
interesting
getting going.
Yeah, 4 Thopters is a much better number than 3 because it can kill a Gideon right away if the Gideon makes a token.
Mm-hmm.
So it might force Philippe, if there's a Whirler Virtuoso on the other side of the table, to plus a Gideon the turn he plays it rather than make it 2/2. But yeah, functionally it's just a lot.
Yes. So have a little look at 2 lands flicking away, and they both go to the bottom. Off the Glimmer of Genius, and there is an Ulamog in hand and a Chandra Flamecaller for Tyler. Philippe has finally worked his way out of at least the direst of his mana issues, and of course still has 7 cards in hand because he's done almost nothing.
Yeah, he's even discarded cards due to hand size issues. And, you know, this is one of the powerful parts about the Marvel deck is Philippe can't really tap mana on his turn for the foreseeable future until he starts working things out of Tyler's hand. So there again, he would rather discard that Stasis Snare from his hand than tap any mana on his turn and risk Tyler resolving an Aetherworks Marvel.
Tyler is going to send in a Servant of the Conduit. There is no Thread of Avacyn on the other side right now. Back we go to Philippe. 8 cards in hand. And, I mean, he's got a Gideon, so he could run that out. But first of all, just put you down to 27.
Yeah.
As you do.
Start ticking away that absurdly large number on the other side of the table. I imagine that Philippe's going to want to play one of his 2-drops here, maybe.
And then leave up the negate.
Yeah, it is dangerous, though, because a Marvel plus a negate from the other side is...
The end. I think were the words you were looking for.
Yes. But Philippe missing these land drops has been crucial. You know, he has enough mana to basically cast any card in his hand, but at the same time, he knows that if he does so, he'll essentially be conceding the game.
Right. So his Selfless Spirit, anyway, that is what he goes with, so sits there with his 2 mana up. 7 cards in hand for Tyler. Now 6 after the Bolus Horned Forest enters the battlefield. Do love those lands. I think they're really, really
I think
sweet.
They're gorgeous, yeah. They're some of my favorites ever, even.
So here we go. Can I have a Marvel? No.
Yes.
No, really, can I have a Marvel? Thank you. And it's just how it all got drawn up by JVL. And that is a Marvel in play. Spinach. That's not the vegetable, that's the verb of what happens when a Marvel spins. It is spinach.
In AGE.
AGE, yes. I make the game finish because I like my spinach.
And then we just saw a really cool interaction there from Tyler. Doesn't find himself in Ulamog. However, does find himself another Aetherworks Marvel and has plenty of energy at the ready, so instead just takes the Aetherworks Marvel, keeps the untapped one. The tapped one dies, giving him 2 energy because of both the Aetherworks Marvel triggers, and then he gets to spin again. Again, does not find himself in Ulamog, but this time finds himself a Rogue Refiner, which is going to put him back into the energy range he needs to spin the wheel again on the following turn, while also drawing him a card and advancing his board state. Philippe's still without this 5th land that he needs. You know, and there have been a few turns where Philippe could have ran out one of these 3 Spell Quellers just as a 2/3.
Yeah, someone was mentioning that in chat and saying, you know, why didn't they just end step a Spell Queller and on we go? Yeah,
and I think, you know, earlier in the game that probably would have been pretty wise because he was actually discarding the hand size.
Yeah.
And if you're doing that anyway and you have all these counter spells in your hand that you can't use, it might just be worth it to advance your board state with a 2/3 flyer.
Here we go again. 7 will go down to 1. As we said, it turned out that 14 energy wasn't that much because he's down at 1 already. 4, 5, 6. See a Chandra Flamecaller there, a Harness Lightning. That looks like an Attune with Ether, the last card drawn. There's a blue card there, might be a negate. He's going to go and get Chandra Flamecaller.
It's a pretty nice one. It's interesting here. He has a lot of options with what he does with this Chandra Flamecaller. He certainly does not want a -2 because it would just leave a Thraben Inspector on the table and, you know, he would have the Chandra. He could -1 just to kill the Selfless Spirit if he wanted to. Or he could plus and create some elementals.
Yep, and that's where he's heading. Which, just for the record, don't come into play tapped, as they appear to have done. There was a little bit of shortcuttery going on there.
They oftentimes do, but not in actuality. So here Philippe is able to play that Skull Queller on the end step, and now that's going to let him get the Chandra down to 1 with an attack in the air. So Philippe, deciding whether or not he's going to let this Harness Lightning on the Spell Queller resolve, he could just use another Spell Queller, or Archangel Avacyn to protect it.
Well, Philippe is kind of...
I think Chandra's still in play with 1 ability. Okay.
Philippe's trying to edge his way back into this.
It's going to be really hard from this spot, especially with that puzzle not in play. There's not really a conceivable turn where Tyler's not going to be spinning the wheel here.
Sure.
And it's worth noting, Tyler's even, he has access to 8 mana, so 2 more lands, and he'll be able to cast any Ulamog's that might be stranded in his hand. I believe he has 2 copies of Attune with Ether in his hand. So, eventually he's going to find an Ulamog on the top of his library.
Thing is, he's got one in hand, just can't get there yet. He isn't as far as the 10 mana. Here's a Road Refiner. So, no, not this time.
Yeah, we ran the numbers yesterday, and if you don't have a Flamecaller or an Ulamog in your hand, and you're spinning the wheel on turn 4, you're roughly a coin flip, play or draw, to hit one of the 2 when you spin it the first time.
Right.
Just slightly below 50%.
Okay. So, David 212 ACU says, I think that if BFZ and OGW would have rotated, then Marvel wouldn't be so busted since Ulamog wouldn't be legal. Now, the thing is,
absolutely true.
I was thinking about Collected Company, right? Now, I know that by the end of the format, people are like, oh, yeah, you're playing Collected Company deck. But there wasn't, I don't think, real hatred for the card Collected Company. And you are looking at the top 6 cards, and you are selecting from them, and you're getting rewarded from your top 6. And I certainly didn't hear a chorus of, you're just lucky, you're just spinning the cocoa, you're just, just randomly playing roulette with your deck, which are all the things that are aimed at Marvel. The issue is not the Marvel. The issue is the one card that comes out of Marvel. Let us just literally imagine Ulamog gone, and okay, so I spent 6 energy and a card and played lots of cards in my deck to warp the deck so that I could do this, and I got a Rogue Refiner. That's good, it's not unfair. A Whirl of Virtuoso, it's good, it's not unfair. The absolute pinnacle would be a Chandra Flamecaller, probably, which is really good. It's not unfair.
No, not unfair.
So,
pretty hard to lose when you hit a Chandra
sure.
on like turn 4.
Absolutely
if you
great.
hit it on like turn 6, you can play still. That's a real game.
Yeah, and obviously, and I appreciate all the responses in chat because I am interested in the sort of psychology of the Marvel itself versus Coco, and the fact that a lot of people sort of seem to have the shorthand, it's Marvel that's the problem, rather than the one card that's unfair when you hit it.
Yeah, and I mean, Ulamog wouldn't be seeing any play if you weren't cheating it into play somehow in the standard format. That's not necessarily true. There might be some green ramp deck, but those things are healthy. Those things are decks that have different, weaknesses that don't exist in this deck, because this deck gets to operate as like a powerful mid-range aggro deck, even when it's not comboing.
Now here is a good reply. Yen24 says, Rich, this was the same argument against Emrakul. Turns out Marvel is the problem. Okay, I get that. So you're saying that there are enough. enormously unfair things running around. It's essentially, we'll call it the Eldrazi package, if you like, that mean that, yes, there's always going to be something unfair to hit with Marvel. Fair enough. Thank you for that. I appreciate all the responses. Great to read, great to learn, great to think.
Yeah, I think one of the major differences, too, between Collected Company and a card like Aetherworks Marvel, yeah, both cards let us look at the top 6 and put things into play, and we don't know what we're going to hit. But when we're playing Collected Company, the cards we're hitting, there's a restriction on that. It has to be creatures with converted mana cost 3 or less. So people build their deck playing all of those creatures that cost 3 or less. So when you cast Collected Company, it's this insanely powerful card that gives you 2 incredibly powerful creatures, usually, hopefully, that cost 3 or less. And that's the expectation, and that's what happens most of the time. Whereas with Marvel, the differential between hitting an Ulamog and hitting anything else is so wide, the differential between hitting Ulamog or Chandra and hitting anything else is so wide that it really does kind of feel more random than a Collected Company would have.
Meanwhile, the board is rather emptier than it once was. We have an Aetherworks Marvel with a bajillion energy floating about, and we have an Arazin the Puriflyer.
And things are suddenly interesting here. I mean, Tyler, he may hit with this Marvel at some point or another. He's gotten pretty unlucky thus far with it, though.
And he's still sitting on 8 land. Still 2 away from Ulamog. So Philippe now sends in with Arazin. He's got 5 cards in hand. Remember, this is the game where he sat on 2 land, discarding 2 cards, 2 turns in a row, 2 only having 2 land. He's still sitting there with 5. Tyler's got 4, including an Ulamog, and some land. That looks like an Attune as well. So we're 2 turns away from an honest-to-God Ulamog.
Yeah. And this Avacin's going to take a long... Normally, that ends the game very quickly, but this is going to take a long time to cut down the life total of Tyler Echevarria. He has 27 life.
Right.
Not sure if that's still correct after the attack there, but...
Right. Yeah, we'll check in on that. But here we go with an Attune with Ether, which Philip's going to say sure to, so that's 14.
Yeah, and those Attune with Ethers, it's interesting because, yes, they're thinning his deck, and in that sense, it's making it more likely that he'll hit an Ulamog, but all of those non-Ulamog cards that he had put on the bottom of his library with that Aetherworks Marvel, all of those get shuffled back in. Yeah. And I think in some ways he needs to be careful about doing that over and over again because, if you just activate that Aetherworks Marvel without...
I love that card so much.
Yes.
Confiscation coup. How about this, Philippe?
And these control magic effects have been, really powerful throughout the history of Magic. Interesting rule now. Previously, Arazin the Purifier would have had a converted mana cost of 0, but now with the new rules, its converted mana cost is 5.
Okay, because of what's on the other side.
What's on the other side, correct. Yeah.
Someone help me out in chat. Citizens, do not resist. This is for your safety. Tezzeret bids you to surrender your inventions now. Flavor text on confiscation coup. Has there ever been a control magic, steal your, act of treason or whatever effect for the turn or permanently with the flavor text yoink? Have we had that yet in Magic? Just the one word, yoink. Because I kind of feel that's if it doesn't exist, it's missing.
Okay.
Yes. Are you unfamiliar with Y-O-I-N-K?
Well, no, I'm very familiar with yoink, but
yeah. Right. So I mean, if there's one, that's exactly what you do. You go confiscation coup, yoink. I'll have that, thank you.
I mean, it's accurate.
I'm just wondering whether it's happened. Because in my head, I don't feel like that's original. I feel like there's a Magic card out there somewhere that does indeed have that flavor text. Maybe it's in an unset or something.
I remember Confiscate having some strange flavor text, some funny flavor text, but I don't think it was yoink.
Chris Krypton is going to very sadly say just looked, no cards. Oh.
Well, that's a shame.
Mark Wraith, who, by the way, is one of the finest players ever to come out of the hallowed United Kingdom, says there is, in fact, a card called Burgle from another game that has flavor text that's yoink, and it's probably that I'm thinking of. Dragon Fodder reprint.
Here we are, 10 mana tapped, Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger cast, and we're going to have a game 3.
Yes, finally. I mean,
Philippe was floundering around for the entirety of that game there. You know, it was kind of a disaster for him.
Well, I mean, it went wrong from exactly the point that he kept 2 land and didn't see any more until Christmas.
Exactly.
Still, there we are. That's game number 2. They're down to about 15 minutes left in the round. So by my rating, that's about 74 jokes. So, thank you. See, that wasn't even one of them, and he's already started. Tyler Echevarria equals it up 1-1. We're going to stay right here and give you game number 3 in this one.
And that should be interesting here. Philippe, you know, hasn't had an opportunity to be on the play just yet in this matchup. And I think a deck like his is much stronger when you get to be on the play. Historically, these tempo strategies, being able to play your powerful 2-drop and then protect it with counter magic, that's a lot easier to do when you're on the play because your opponent doesn't get a chance to, you know, get a first lick by playing their 2-drop before you.
Yep.
So when you're doing that, you get really far ahead. And his 2-drops are going to be better in the red zone than Tyler's would be.
Right, so potentially, if we're sort of mapping this out, this could be the tempo version of white-blue. This could be land go, land Selfless Spirit, land another creature, maybe even end step spell collar, something like that, then hit you for 4 or 5, counter a spell, hit you for 4 or 5, let something irrelevant resolve, have your puzzle knot, have your rogue refiner, sure.
Yeah.
Hit you for 5, you're at what, 7, 8. I've still got a counter spell backup. I've got 4 land in play. I'm 1 away from Avacyn. Thanks for playing by.
Exactly, and that's one of the great parts about playing a deck like this white-blue tempo deck here, is that he gets to make the decision of when he wants to use that mana for counter magic or when he wants to use that mana for creatures. He doesn't have to gamble on whether or not his opponent's going to go for it. When he's, you know, sacrificing those resources by leaving it untapped and passing the turn, he can still use that mana on his opponent's turn with cards like Spell Queller and cards like Archangel Avacyn. And all the while, he's still protecting himself from these huge sorcery speed threats by using counter magic.
Well, it looks like Philippe is keeping, and he's going to open up with a tap down, which is exactly what you'd want on turn 1. Tyler, what is he going to do here? It's an Attune with Ether.
Now, Philippe's deck may look like it's, you know, like a rogue deck, and oftentimes rogue decks get the bad reputation of playing with underpowered cards. But Philippe is playing with Archangel Avacyn and Gideon, ally of Zendikar.
Right.
These are not underpowered magic cards. These are very, very real magic cards. I think if somebody told you that at this point in time these were considered rogue cards, it would have surprised you a lot.
It is working out as we drew it up initially. Here comes a Glory-bound Initiate. First time we've seen that in the whole match. Tyler, however, has a Harness Lightning, which is a very nice response.
Yeah, I mean, that's great for Tyler because not only is he getting that powerful 2-drop off the table, but he's also netting 2 energy in the process and working himself up toward an active Aetherworks Marvel.
Yeah, chat, I agree. I think Tyler missed his first draw step. He just literally just had 7 cards and played 2 of them. When land Attune with Ether. Just
really?
Just failed to have a draw step.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, pretty sure. So, World of Virtuoso and the energy is already up at 8. They're just confirming that. Chat is almost certain that Tyler missed his first draw step, and we are inclined to agree. Oh, they're going to go and ask. Okay. Chat, we could be changing the course of Magic history together.
Together we're magically adding cards to one player's hand. Not actually adding them. Putting them to the correct number, for what it's worth. We're correcting an incorrect state of affairs. Yeah, he was on the draw. The tune replaces itself. Whirler Virtuoso and Harness Lightning. Yeah,
I think that's...
he should have an extra card.
Yeah.
He didn't mulligan?
Nope, he did not.
Yeah.
Look at that. 3 cheers for chat.
It's good. We want fair magic on the stream.
We do. It's true. So Philippe with Selfless Spirit up against Whirler Virtuoso and imaginary 1/1 Thopter tokens. But he will be imagining them there. No, Twist Warp, that's not how Yoink works. I'll explain it to you later.
Yeah, now, what's interesting here is, Philippe, it's kind of going as he drew it up here in the sense that he was able to resolve this threat when Tyler had nothing on the board. But again, Whirler Virtuoso matches up really well against Philippe's deck. He has this Selfless Spirit here, and he's going to trade it for a Thopter token. And actually, this is a really interesting play from him, because this puts Tyler off of 6 energy, and now he gets an opportunity to resolve spells, if he wants to, without letting Tyler have enough energy to spin the wheel on a Marvel right away.
Okay.
And now he's baiting Tyler into playing a Marvel. He's daring him to play a Marvel, because he's saying, look, I attacked with that just to get you off 6 energy. Clearly, I don't have the counterspell. There's no way I can have that counterspell, right?
Oh, this is so beautiful.
The thing is, Tyler didn't have the Marvel. So Tyler was unable to take the bait because he wasn't hungry.
Or he wasn't a fish, or there was no hook, or...
The analogy ran ashore a little early. Yeah.
Well, like angle shooting, and it's not quite working. Nonetheless, I love the setup, and those things go unremarked a lot of the time, and you don't even notice them in game a lot of the time, as we see Rogue Refiner not allowed to enter the battlefield. So it's back to Whirler Virtuoso plus 4 energy. Yeah, 4, bit different to 6. And Tyler passes the turn with the correct number of cards left. We see in negate, Philippe's just drawn land number 5, so he's got a negate there. Getting a bit dizzy, but I believe there's also a Gideon Allied Zendikar in hand for Philippe.
I'm actually surprised there that Philippe didn't go for the Gideon, because now that Tyler did not go for the Aetherworks Marvel in the turn before, if he's going to set up that play, I think he really wants to kind of use that as information, in addition to just using it as, a ploy to get somebody to do something. Still really impressive mind games happening here.
Yeah.
When you start getting to the 9-1 bracket at a Grand Prix, some really interesting stuff can happen.
Right, it's where the difference happens, and I mean, one of the great beauties of the game is you can sleeve up this exact list, right? We could go off in the next round if we want, you and I, and turn on Magic Online and play this exact list on Philippe Desbiens' side of the board, and it looks like we're playing the same game. But sometimes the people at the top tables are just playing a game that most of us are unaware of.
Absolutely. Grand Prix New Jersey a few weeks ago, Corey Baumeister and Brad Nelson stayed with me. I played the exact same 75 cards as them, with the exact same sideboard plan as them. And I was out of the tournament in day 1 and hanging out with my wife and my daughter, and Corey won the tournament.
Yeah.
So
turns out quite a lot of decisions, and sometimes they're correct and they don't work out. Sometimes they're correct and they never follow to the destination, because in this case, Tyler didn't have the Marvel to be baited. But yeah, that's why it's the best game ever.
Absolutely.
Whirler Virtuoso now has 2 Thopters for company. Meanwhile, Gideon has a Knight for company. Tyler is going to add Chandra Flamecaller to the board, or try to. But it turns out that a Planeswalker is not a creature spell, which is why Negate will put Flamecaller in the bin. 2 flying comes in. Philippe Desbiens' Gideon goes to 2 loyalty.
And something nice about Philippe's situation right now is that he's able to plus this Gideon and keep it out of range of being attacked by these Thopters again. So that's kind of buying himself more time and allowing him to do more tricks with this Gideon. Unfortunately for him, his hand is another Gideon and 1 random card. So he doesn't really have that much action.
Other than the 5/5 indestructible that just turns sideways.
Yeah, and that's impressive. But when your opponent has a seemingly endless stream of chump blockers,
for sure,
it becomes less so.
Yeah. And now with no energy, this is interesting. No double red for a second Chandra, points out someone in the chat. Radden69, thank you. So
and that's a big deal.
Yeah, but now here's Puzzle Knot, so back on with energy. And Gideon will go down to 1. And it's probably not long for this world. We've got a Chandra Flamecaller and Ulamog in hand. The big hits are in hand for Tyler. And another Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot. So energy all the way up to 6.
And here, Whirler Virtuoso has just dominated the game.
Phone microwave. I don't need to respond on air, but you're obviously correct. You don't need to know what he said, Jake. It's fine. It's just between us. He just said I was the most handsome of all the commentators, and you know, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad.
I'm furious.
No, don't be. It's all right. You could still be the second best looking guy in the whole world.
That's
right, and still that could
good.
still be
Thanks.
true. You're welcome. Yeah, good looking guy. Don't mind us. We're just having a moment. Tyler at 16, Philip at 20. Gideon with 2 loyalty, Thraben Inspector plus Night Token opposite, 2 Thopters, a Whirler Virtuoso, 6 energy, brackets 12 energy at some stage, as Glory Bound Initiate adds to the board for Philippe. Give us a sense, who's ahead right now?
Tyler seems to be a pretty strong lead right now, and it's because the Whirler Virtuoso is just going completely unanswered. He's going to be able to grind down this Gideon, and then even though Philippe has another Gideon in hand, it doesn't seem like it's going to be able to affect the board that much. Tyler has another Chandra in hand, and at this point, you know, he could use that Chandra if he wants to clear Philippe's side of the board and leave him with just a Whirler Virtuoso and enough energy to make another token. And usually when we get to this stage of the game and things are even close, it's going to favor the Marvel player, because the thing that's crazy about Marvel is not only do they have this absurd early game where they're able to just essentially combo you out on turn 4, but as the game gets later on, they're threatening to do these unbelievably powerful things.
Yeah, there was a moment just there where I would happily have screenshotted and gone, okay, there's 3 cards left in hand for Tyler. It's Chandra Flamecaller, Confiscation Coup, and Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger. And you just imagine what could be in Philippe Desbiens' hand. And, you know, it's maybe a Selfless Spirit, a Glory Bound Initiate, a Thraben Inspector, maybe a Gideon. Here's a cast out for the Flamecaller.
And it's something, but, you know, even now, Tyler's happy to just continue to make these Thopters. And I think the major weakness of Philippe's deck here is Whirler Virtuoso. You know, he's playing so many cards with 1 toughness. A lot of them fly, but that doesn't matter when you're facing off against Thopters. And he's playing Planeswalkers also. And, you know, while his deck is very good against the entirety of the Marvel deck except for the Whirler Virtuoso, the Whirler Virtuoso does so much work. Like here, we've seen the Whirler Virtuoso just do everything and more. And there's another copy.
Yeah. It's been great. And now with not an Ulamog in sight, with not a Marvel in sight, Tyler Echevarria seems to be in complete control of the board and the game and the match. Talking of the match, just had a message from the scorekeeper here, Jordan Baker, who's running it all blindingly efficiently for us. I can tell you that this is one of only 3 matches left in the entire building still in round number 11. Now what that means is that when this match finishes, we'll be going away for a couple of minutes. We will then come back and attempt to bring you some Time Warp magic, but my lord, my expectation is that we will get through very, very little of that before we head back with Marshall and Paul for round number 12. So it's all magic all the time, which we're glad to bring you here from the home of magic, twitch.tv/magic.
So here, Philippe has Archangel Avacyn, which is his one major avenue to victory from this situation. If he's able to flip Archangel Avacyn into Avacyn the Purifier before, well, that's going to make it a lot harder.
Yoink.
Yoink.
So now it's apart from cast out, no non-land permanents for Philippe in play. Oh dear.
Oh, they're trying to figure it out. Figure out whether or not it flips, because a creature he controlled did not, or did, but not while he controlled it.
Right.
So it's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, Archangel Avacyn flew the coop, and that takes care of business. In the end, the Team of Marvel deck of Tyler Echevarria was too much, and Tyler wins that. We'll take a quick break, and we will be right back with more Magic.